I never expected inheriting my grandmother's land to feel like inheriting a piece of my soul. When she passed, the small stretch of forest and meadow she'd cared for all her life was handed to me, but it was more than just soil and trees, it was memories, family history, and a refuge I dreamed of preserving. I remember sitting on her porch as a kid, watching fireflies dance over the tall grass, hearing her stories about our ancestors planting those very oaks that now towered above me. This land, she used to say, holds our roots. I thought about turning it into a sanctuary, a place where my own children could someday feel that same peace. Maybe a small retreat, a garden, or even just a quiet place where family could gather and remember. I felt proud, hopeful. This wasn't just property, it was legacy. But the first time I visited after the funeral, something didn't sit right. I parked at the old gravel path and walked toward the meadow, but my heart sank when I saw the new chain-link fence running across the edge of the property. Bright orange construction cones dotted the entrance. A large sign hung from the fence that read, "No trespassing, private development zone." My fingers trembled as I touched the weathered wood of a stake driven into the ground. I hadn't authorized any development. Who could have? "Hey!" I called out, heart pounding. No answer. The only sounds were distant machinery and the hum of trucks working somewhere deeper in the woods. The place where I remembered butterflies fluttering now echoed with an unnatural noise. That's when I noticed a man standing just beyond the fence, a suited figure inspecting blueprints, oblivious to my presence. "This is private property now," he said without looking up. "You'll need permission to be here." I swallowed hard. "But this is my grandmother's land. I'm the heir." He shrugged, dismissive. "That doesn't mean much these days." The confusion and disbelief swirled in me. How could this be happening? Was I about to lose the one thing that tied me to my past? My grandmother's land, her sanctuary, was slipping away, and I was left standing at the edge, not knowing what to do next. But deep down, I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let it go without a fight. I didn't sleep that night, the image of that fence and construction cones burned into my mind. The next morning, I drove back to the property, determined to get answers. As I stepped out of my car, I saw a woman standing near the edge of the site. She had perfectly coiffed hair and a sharp suit, someone who clearly belonged in an office, not out here with dirt on her shoes. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone clipped. "I'm the owner of this land," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I inherited it from my grandmother." She glanced at me with a cold smile. "I'm Patricia Wilson, HOA president. I'm here on behalf of the development committee. We have plans underway, and this area is now designated for new housing." "I haven't heard anything about this," I replied, confused. "No notices, no meetings." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Notices were sent, but I suppose you're new around here. Development must proceed regardless." "Wait, you can't just take my land without my permission." She laughed softly, a sound that made my stomach twist. "Ownership is complicated. There are zoning laws and permits in place. This project has all the necessary approvals." My anger bubbled up. "But I'm the legal heir. My grandmother left it to me." "Legal heir or not," she said, folding her arms, "rules are rules. And frankly, this land is better used for progress than nostalgia." I clenched my fists, disbelief flooding me. How could she dismiss my claims so easily? Just then, an older man walked up, his face lined with years of hard work. "I know that woman," he said quietly. "She's been running this neighborhood like her own kingdom for years, pushing people out and making deals behind closed doors. Is that true?" I asked, hope sparking. He nodded solemnly. "If you want to keep that land, you'll have to fight harder than anyone else. She doesn't play fair." My mind raced. I wasn't prepared for this, but backing down wasn't an option. "I'm not going anywhere." Patricia smirked, her eyes cold. We'll see about that. As she walked away, I felt a fire ignite inside me. This wasn't just about land anymore. It was about standing up to corruption, protecting my family's legacy, and fighting for what was right. And I was ready to begin. I spent hours poring over the documents in my grandmother's old filing cabinet. Titles, deeds, surveys, all tangled in a web more complicated than I expected. Some papers looked forged or altered, signatures didn't match, dates were suspicious. The more I dug, the less sure I felt. Was I ready to take on this fight? Could I really challenge a powerful HOA president and developers with their slick lawyers? I whispered to myself, what am I getting into? Fear gnawed at the edges of my resolve. Maybe I should just walk away and let it go. But then I thought about Grandma, about her stories of how this land was the heart of our family. Later that evening, my sister, Lisa, called. Don't let them bully you, she said firmly. Grandma wouldn't have wanted this to end without a fight. Her voice steadied me. But what if I'm not strong enough? I admitted. You're stronger than you think. You have to protect what's ours, she urged. I closed my eyes, remembering Grandma's words, this land holds our roots. Fight for it like you're fighting for your own heart. Her voice echoed in my mind, filling me with something fierce. I realized this wasn't just about property. It was about family, legacy, and standing up to those who try to erase both. I took a deep breath, gripping the papers tighter. I'm not giving up. The road ahead was daunting, but I had to try. For Grandma, for my family, and for myself. This was my fight now. The first notice arrived on my doorstep, a thick envelope stamped with the HOA's seal. I tore it open to find a warning, unauthorized use of the property, immediate fines unless I complied with their demands. My stomach dropped. How could they levy fines against me for land I'd inherited fair and square? A few days later, a man in a crisp suit showed up at my house. Ms. Carter, he said, flashing a badge, I'm with the county zoning board. You're in violation of several ordinances. Development plans have been approved by the board, and any interference could lead to legal consequences. I stared at him, disbelief mixing with anger. Interference? This is my land. He shrugged. Legally, the situation's more complex. You might want to reconsider your position. That night, I lay awake, heart pounding. The walls felt like they were closing in. Endless worry, sleepless hours, and the gnawing fear of losing everything. The phone rang constantly, threats, calls from unknown numbers, official-sounding voices warning me to back off. Isolation wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. Friends suggested I give up, they said I was fighting a losing battle. But then Mrs. Jenkins from down the street knocked on my door one afternoon. I've been through this, she said quietly, handing me a folder of letters and documents. They tried to take my property 5 years ago. Same people. They don't play fair, but I fought back. You can, too. Her words sparked something inside me. I realized I wasn't alone. From that moment, I started keeping a journal, documenting every interaction, every letter, every threat. Photographs of the land, timestamps, recorded conversations when I could. I wasn't going down without a fight. You're stronger than you know, Mrs. Jenkins told me one afternoon. And now, you've got me in your corner. Her support gave me a lifeline, a reason to push through the darkness. With every fine and warning, my resolve hardened. They thought they could wear me down, but I was just getting started. I spent the morning at the county records office, flipping through dusty files and faded maps. Each paper I pulled out seemed more confusing than the last, surveys that didn't match, signatures that looked forged, and permits issued without my knowledge. I ran my fingers over a deed that claimed ownership by someone I'd never heard of. My heart pounded. How deep does this go? I whispered to myself. Just then, I bumped into a man stacking files, a lawyer, I later learned. "You look like you're chasing ghosts," he said with a wry smile. "I'm trying to prove this land is mine," I replied, holding up a document. "But everything's a mess." He nodded, eyes sharp and kind. "I'm Daniel Reed. I've handled cases like this before, fights against powerful developers and corrupt officials. It's tough, but not impossible." Relief and hope washed over me. "You'd help me?" Daniel folded his arms. "I believe in standing up for what's right. Let's see what we're really up against." Together, we dug deeper. Daniel pointed out inconsistencies I'd missed, the way certain surveys conveniently excluded parts of the land, or how some permits had suspicious dates. "It's a web of deception," he said, eyes grim. "They've been covering their tracks for years." Anger flared inside me. How could they get away with this? Daniel sighed. "Because they have connections, money, and influence. But that doesn't mean they're invincible." I felt a surge of determination. This fight was bigger than I thought, but now I wasn't alone. "We'll need patience and strategy," Daniel warned. "This won't be quick, and it won't be easy. But I'm with you." His words grounded me. The path ahead was steep, but with Daniel's help, I felt ready to climb it. For the first time in weeks, I dared to believe justice might still be within reach. Filing the complaint felt like the first real step forward. I sat in Daniel's office, watching him carefully draft the documents. "We're officially challenging them now," he said. "Expect pushback." I nodded, trying to mask the knot in my stomach. Within days, the letters arrived, threatening notices, public warnings, and accusations that I was obstructing progress. Then the smear campaign began, whispers in the neighborhood, rumors that I was a troublemaker, someone who didn't belong here. The first hearing was nerve-wracking. Sitting in the sterile courtroom, my hands shook as I listened to their lawyer paint me as an obstacle to development and prosperity. The judge's gaze felt cold and distant, and when they dismissed some of our evidence on a technicality, I felt the ground slip beneath me. "Are we really up against the system?" I whispered to Daniel, despair creeping in. He placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "This isn't over." "Not yet." Back home, my sister Lisa called every night, her voice a lifeline. "Remember why you started this," she urged. "Don't let them win." Some nights, I lay awake, haunted by doubt. What if I lose the land? What if my family's legacy disappears forever? But then, in the quiet moments, a flicker of determination burned brighter. I couldn't let fear win. "I have to keep fighting," I told myself, staring at Grandma's photo on the mantel. "This land means more than just property. It's who we are." No matter the setbacks, I was ready to stand my ground. The battle was far from over. I decided I couldn't fight this alone anymore. I knocked on my neighbors' doors, hoping to find allies. Some answered hesitantly, eyes wary. "I don't want trouble," one neighbor murmured, closing the door quickly. But others were willing to talk. Mrs. Jenkins, who had helped me before, nodded firmly. "Patricia's been pushing people around for years. You're not the first to get caught in her crosshairs." A few neighbors shared stories, fines, threats, sudden violations that seemed designed to force them out. The pattern was clear: this wasn't just about my land. "We've been too quiet," I said at one gathering, voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. "It's time to stand up together." Organizing a community meeting felt daunting, but as word spread, more people showed up. The room was tense, eyes darted nervously, voices whispered, but hope flickered beneath the surface. Just as I was about to speak, a commotion at the back startled us. A man with a stern expression tried to shut down the meeting, warning us of legal consequences for disturbing the peace. "Let us speak," I called out, heart pounding. The room erupted in murmurs of agreement. Fear was still there, but so was courage. After the disruption, a neighbor whispered, "She's using her influence to scare us. But we're stronger than that." That night, I felt a shift, not just in the community, but in myself. I wasn't alone. Together, we could challenge the power that had tried to silence us. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, I sensed real hope. I couldn't believe what Daniel pulled from the archives, a faded ledger with my grandmother's signature, witnessed by a notary whose reputation couldn't be questioned. "This," he said, holding it up carefully, "proves your claim beyond doubt." My hands trembled as I read through the pages. This was the key, the missing piece that could unravel everything Patricia had built against me. "Are you sure?" I whispered, barely able to breathe. Daniel nodded. "This document, combined with the witness testimony we just secured, will blow their case apart." Hope surged through me, fierce and electrifying. After months of doubt and setbacks, I finally had the proof I needed. We started preparing immediately. A detailed presentation for the upcoming hearing, statements from witnesses ready to testify, and legal arguments sharpened to perfection. Meanwhile, I noticed Patricia's behavior change. She was frantic, her usual composed facade cracking. Rumors spread that she was trying to bribe officials and intimidate neighbors. One evening, my phone buzzed with an anonymous tip, "She's desperate. Watch your back." Fear crept in, but it was tangled with determination. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I wasn't just fighting for land anymore, I was fighting for justice. "I won't let her win," I told Daniel as we reviewed our strategy late into the night. His eyes met mine. "You've come too far to stop now." As the hearing day approached, my heart raced. The battle was no longer just legal, it was personal, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The day of the hearing arrived faster than I expected. Standing before the crowded room, my heart hammered in my chest, but my voice was steady. "This land belongs to my family, legally and rightfully," I began, holding up the documents Daniel had helped me gather. "These signatures are authentic. The permits filed by the opposing party are forged. This is a deliberate attempt to steal what is ours." Patricia's face twisted into a mask of disbelief, then anger. "These accusations are baseless," she spat. "You're trying to disrupt progress with lies." I met her gaze, unflinching. "The truth is here, for everyone to see." Neighbors who had once whispered behind closed doors now stood behind me, their faces showing solidarity. Witnesses stepped forward, confirming the pattern of corruption and intimidation Patricia had wielded for years. The tension was palpable. The judge's eyes flickered between the evidence and the crowd's murmurs. Minutes felt like hours. Then, with a firm voice, the ruling came. "The claims against the rightful owner are upheld. All development is to cease immediately." Relief flooded me, tears stinging my eyes. Justice had finally been served. As the crowd applauded, I felt no triumphal arrogance, only humility. This was not just my victory, but ours. The fight had been long and hard, but standing here, I knew it was worth every moment. "This land is more than property," I said softly. "It is family, history, and community. And today, we protect it together." The ruling hit like a tidal wave. Patricia was stripped of her HOA position, faced hefty fines, and legal proceedings for fraud and misconduct were underway. The news spread quickly, and for once, I felt the weight of justice settling in my chest. Walking through the neighborhood, I noticed subtle changes. Neighbors greeted me with genuine smiles instead of wary glances. The tension that had hung in the air was slowly lifting. "Thank you for standing up," Mrs. Jenkins said warmly. "You gave us hope." I smiled, but inside, exhaustion gnawed at me. Months of sleepless nights, anxiety, and battles had taken their toll. I caught myself staring out the window, wondering if the fight was really over or if the scars would linger longer than the victory. My family was supportive but strained, long phone calls, missed gatherings, and the constant stress had frayed bonds. I felt guilty for dragging them into this mess, yet proud we stood united. Sitting alone one evening, I whispered to myself, we paid a price, but it was worth it. The land was safe, the community healing, and a new era was dawning. But the real victory was the strength I found inside, the courage to fight when everything seemed stacked against me. I looked at Grandma's old photo on the mantel, feeling her presence like never before. We did it, I said softly. Together. Justice wasn't just about winning the case, it was about reclaiming our dignity, our home, and our future. And in that moment, I finally felt at peace. The fight changed me more than I ever expected. I used to doubt myself, wonder if I had the strength to stand up to people like Patricia. Now, I know I do. Every sleepless night, every tense courtroom moment built a resilience I never knew I had. Look at you, Lisa said one afternoon, smiling as we sat on the porch. You've become a real leader. I laughed softly. If you'd told me that 6 months ago, I'd have said you were crazy. But it's true. I'm not just fighting for my land anymore. I'm helping neighbors who face similar battles, sharing what I've learned, and speaking out for those who feel powerless. Last week, I met with a family down the street struggling against unfair fines. You gave me hope, the father said, his voice shaky but grateful. That moment reminded me why this matters. My family and I are healing too. We've spent time rebuilding the connections strained by this ordeal, sharing laughter and stories that had been buried beneath stress. This struggle reshaped how I see justice. It's not just about laws and documents, it's about fairness, community, and standing up for what's right even when the odds are stacked. I look at that land now and feel pride, not just in protecting it but in how it helped me grow. I'm no longer the unsure heir. I'm someone who fights, leads, and believes in a better future. And as I prepare for the challenges ahead, I know this is only the beginning. Looking back on everything, I realize this journey wasn't just about a piece of land. It was about standing up when it felt easier to give up. Never back down, Grandma's words echoed in my mind, and I see now how true they were. I'm deeply grateful for the neighbors who stood beside me, for Daniel who never lost faith, and for my family whose love carried me through the darkest days. Without them, this victory wouldn't exist. The land now feels alive with possibility. I'm working to transform it into a community sanctuary, a place where families can gather, children can play safely, and memories can be made. It's more than a property, it's a symbol of resilience and justice. I hope my story reaches others who feel powerless against unfairness. If I can fight and win, so can they. We all have the strength to protect what matters. As I walk the fields, watching neighbors smile and children run freely, I'm filled with hope. Together, we've built more than a community, we've built a family that stands tall against injustice. And that's a legacy I'm proud to carry forward.